I would go to all these summit events and I'd, meet all these young people, these young 30, 35-year-old entrepreneurs. And I would say, like, how did you turn out the way you did? I'm just so curious. And they all said the same thing to me. They all said, I had someone who believed in me, who told me I could do anything I put my mind to. Usually it was a parent. Even more usually it was their mom. Not always, but usually. And I was so struck by this. And I just kept talking about it. And the kid said, you have to write a book. And I'm like, I can't write a book. And they were, no, you have to write a book. I can't write a book. And they said, you have to write a book. I'm like, okay, I'll write a book. And so they wrote the foreword and they said, everyone needs someone to believe in them. And sometimes it's even your kids.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about how to help your children achieve their dreams. I'm delighted to welcome Margot Machol Bisnow. Margot served as an FTC Commissioner and Staff Director of the President's Council of Economic Advisors, and for the last 10 years, she has spoken to parent groups about raising creative, confident, resilient children who achieve their dreams. Her new book is Raising an Entrepreneur: How to Help Your Children Achieve Their Dreams, 99 Stories from Families Who Did. You can reach Margot at her website, raisinganentrepreneur.com, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Margot. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Me too. Super fun.
Thank you. I love these conversations, and I love that I get to meet the coolest people who have all this wonderful information to share. And I have enjoyed reading a couple of your articles on CNBC,
Oh,
and
good.
one of them was the parenting style that most these parents use, and that is respectful parenting.
Yeah.
And it was based on 3 pillars of structure, supportive, and warmth. Is it okay if we talk about that a little bit?
No, I'd love to talk about it because it's so interesting to me. None of these parents thought, gee, what parenting style am I going to adapt when I'm raising my kids, and none of them knew each other. And it just, it's just after the fact, you kind of look back and you realize that there's authoritarian, which is like, you're going to do what I say when I say, because I said it, and that's what you're going to do. And then there's permissive. Whatever you want, sweetheart. No worries. It's fine. Stay out all night. Don't do anything. It's okay. And then there's what these parents all did, which is we have rules. We have expectations. You have to be polite. You have to be with your family at dinner. You have certain obligations, but complete freedom to make the important decisions in their life. Oh, you want to go to Europe for the summer and work in a refugee camp? Okay. I mean, whatever. You want to change. You've been doing one sport for 8 years and you're really good, and you want to quit that and do another sport. Okay. I mean, sort of whatever they wanted to do. They gave them freedom in the big decisions. And so that's called respectful parenting. And of course, and the other thing at the end of the day, you mentioned warmth. I mean, all of these, every single entrepreneur I've talked to said, I always knew how much my family loved me. I always knew I could go home if things didn't work out. I always knew they were there for me.
Wow. That's what we would all like to be able to have, is that strong support. And isn't it just a balance, trying to be a parent, trying to figure out how to do things? And in order to use respectful parenting, it takes some courage, it takes some consistency, and it takes some trust. You got to trust that these kids are okay to make decisions. And that means that you're okay with them making a mistake.
Yes. And letting them know that it's okay if they make a mistake, and not scolding them or blaming them or criticizing them for making a mistake, but letting them know that failure is how they'll learn and grow, and that everyone makes mistakes, and it's how you pick yourself up and how you learn from it and what you take from it and how you move on that matters. And these parents who protect their kids from mistakes, oh, you didn't make a mistake. Let me fix that for you. I'll talk to the teacher and help them to raise your grades, or whatever. Like, it's terrible. These kids have to know how to fail. They have to know what happens when they screw up. They have to take responsibility. and they have to learn that they can do it and that they're okay and that they're resilient and that they can grow from failure. Because, I mean, everybody's going to fail. Everybody's going to fail. And the failures can be small and the failures can be big. And you just have to learn how to deal with them and not look back. Roger Federer gave the commencement address at Dartmouth last May, and it's fabulous. It's on YouTube, if you haven't heard it. And one of the things he said that I loved was, I won 80% of my matches. I lost 50% of the points I played in the matches. If you beat yourself up every time you lose a point, you're never going to succeed. You can't keep looking backwards. You learn what you can and you move ahead. He said to these kids, like, don't look back. Don't regret mistakes. Just keep going and you'll be okay.
And that is a life skill lesson. I
Yes.
think a lot of times as parents, we want to protect our children. And as you gave some examples of parents who want to protect their children from consequences, protect them from failure, thinking that by doing that, they're being a supportive, caring, loving parent, when in reality, they're kind of setting them up for failure. I think when we get to make our failures when we're little and the failures are smaller, we can learn some life skills that will help us make some kinds of failures. I mean, we fail. We lose 50% of our points. We lose that. But still, there are some mistakes that are bigger than others, I think.
Right, of course. But I don't think there's any entrepreneur who ever said when he was or she were 20 years old, I have this really good idea for a company. I'm going to start it now. And then that company just ends up being a $10 billion company and a huge success for the rest of their life. Right? That's just not how things work. You try something, it doesn't work. You figure out what you could have done differently, and maybe you revise that, and maybe you just drop it and do something else. You change paths, you try different things. I mean, it's okay. And in fact, sometimes it's not even a failure. It's just something you've learned from that didn't, work out as well as it might have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. Another thing in the article that I really appreciated was it talked about expecting them to do things even when it's hard. That parents who are respectful parents expect their children to do things.
Right. And to struggle. And struggling is good. Kids who never have to struggle, whose parents do everything for them and make it easy and make it simple and tell them whatever they do is just wonderful, dear. That's just wonderful. No, they have to work. They have to know that they can work hard at something. And if they work hard enough, they can succeed.
And it does. It takes working hard, and it takes being able to be resilient from our failures, knowing that it's okay. Having something not work doesn't mean that I define myself as a failure. I'm a person who failed. It's not the same thing.
Right. Right. And that thing didn't work out. What did you learn from it? What will you do differently next time?
I love it. Okay. So in order to, if we want our kids to succeed, we might have to modify our parenting style a little bit. So as people are listening, if they think, oh, I've done that, or, oh, I've done that. And what do you mean that that's not okay? Just don't panic, but pay attention. And maybe we need to make some modifications. I also read another article that you wrote about things that these parents thought, if I could go back, there are a few things that I stressed about that I wouldn't have worried about because everything turned out just fine. And some of those were like pressing him to get a college degree and worrying about the time they spent on their hobby, and not talking about finances, just keeping that part kind of secret. And another thing was, we already talked about failures, but supporting them in their failures.
Right. I mean, none of us, know what we're doing when we get started in this whole parenting thing. And, you just do the best you can. But what was really interesting to me was that every entrepreneur that I've talked to had a passion outside of school. And in every case, their parents supported that passion. Sometimes took a big gulp. I mean, it was like, you want to play video games all the time, you want to cook instead of going to college. I mean, but eventually when the parents realized how much joy their children were getting from this passion, they were supportive of it. And so because they had a passion that they had chosen, they worked really hard at it. Because they worked really hard at it, they got really good at it. Because they got really good at it, they got the confidence that if they worked really hard at something, they could be successful. And it was just so important for them to have this confidence that if there's something I work hard enough at, I can do it. And the parents ended up being supportive of their children's success in that, even if they weren't straight A students, and that's hard. Like, I came from a really academic family. My dad was a professor. And, when you see your child spending all their time, for example, on the tennis court, and not getting straight A's, it takes like kind of a big gulp, but then you realize that it's okay. And this is our older son, Elliot, who fell in love with tennis when he was 13. We don't play tennis. And it was 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he lost every match in the beginning. And he said, I know what I did wrong. I'm going to beat him next time. And he fought his way up to 35 in the country. And he was honored by the tennis center where he trained half a dozen years ago for what he had done off the court. And he said, everything I am today is because of tennis. Tennis is where I learned grit and focus and determination and hard work and resilience. He said, I didn't learn that at school because I didn't like school that much and I didn't work that hard at school. Everything is because of tennis. And I mean, if you have a kid who's not academic, but they're working really, really hard at something and developing that grit and that determination and that resilience, that's great. That's going to hold them in good stead. And, sort of the other point you mentioned about college, again, my dad was a professor. I didn't know anybody who hadn't graduated from college growing up. Everyone I knew had an advanced degree. And Elliot dropped out of college after 2.5 years to get on with his life. And he's done just fine. And, if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or an architect or an accountant or whatever, of course, you need good grades and you need an advanced degree, but you don't necessarily. It depends what you want to do with your life.
Wow. Well done. Good job as a mom to be able to step back and say, it's okay that what you want is different from what I expect. Exactly. I think sometimes as parents, it kind of comes instinctively that we want to make maybe clones of ourselves, or maybe even, I want you to be me, only one step better, or you know what I mean? You kind of want to plan things out. And in every case, I love that you said it's what they are passionate about. And so they put in the work. It still takes work. But when it's something that I am interested in, then that work is not a drudgery. It's something that I can learn those life lessons from. And I don't think it has to be tennis. I think it could be anything.
Of course. Of course. It was just tennis for him, I mean, I can go through the book,
Oh, yes, please.
I mean, every single one had a passion about something else. I mean, there were, 70 different people, all of whom had different passions. I think he was the only tennis player. A lot of them, it was sports. Maybe a third of them played sports at an elite level into college. And none of them do anything with sports today. But a lot of them, it was acting, singing, songwriting, being in plays. It was cooking, it was sewing, it was chess, it was trying out for student government, it was debate. I mean, it was building things, it was selling things. I mean, it was any one of a number of things that every one of these kids ended up sort of having a passion about.
Okay. So what I'm hearing then is you talk about, okay, sports. I love sports. I just want to play tennis 5 hours a day for 7 days a week. But then what they became successful in as an entrepreneur had nothing to do with tennis.
Right.
But the
Nothing.
lessons that they learned by following a passion, by learning hard work, by learning the skills of, hey, if I work hard, I can do things. And then having that warm support saying, hey, you're doing great. And, if you lose or if you whatever, that's okay. Let's, get back and do another thing. That confidence level says, huh, I can do this. Well, I can do that. And is that consistent through all of them as well?
Pretty much, yeah.
Interesting.
And I can give you like vastly different, examples. I mean,
Yes, please.
one of my favorites is John Chu, who's the movie director of Wicked. His immigrant parents, really wanted him to be, just a traditional kind of college and professional future. That his parents are both immigrants and have a Chinese restaurant in Silicon Valley, Chef Chu's. And he fell in love with making movies in fourth grade, and it was his passion. And he was just always making, doing filming and videoing and doing different kinds of videos. And he was in high school and he was supposed to be asleep and he was in bed, like doing a video. And his mom came in and said, you need to be asleep and stop wasting your time on this. And it's, you need to be prepared for school. And he burst into tears and he says, you can't make me. This is what I love. This is what I want to do with my life. And she said, go to sleep. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And she picked him up at school the next day and she'd got 10 filmmaking books. And she said, if you want to do it, be the best. And at that point, he said his family was like the most supportive ever. And he said he always knew he was always willing to take risks in film when he started, because he always knew if he failed, he could go home. And he never did. But he always knew that it was there, that his family was there for him.
Beautiful story. And I
Beautiful.
appreciate that you share the mom's response where the initial knee-jerk reaction is, you're wasting your time. But it sounds like she listened when he said, this is my passion. It's like, okay, then do it well. That's beautiful.
Okay, here's another kind of wacky one. Thomas View, his parents were also immigrants from Vietnam, and he was just always in love with video games. And he was also a really great student and an athlete, but video games was his passion. And he went to college and he was majoring in some kind of science that was, and if he graduated, he could have gotten a really great science job. And he was like a semester from graduating. And they had a speaker from electronic arts at his school, and he talked to them about an idea. And the guy said, come and talk to us. And anyhow, he ended up dropping out with a semester to go to join the first intern class at Electronic Arts. He became the lead producer of League of Legends, which is like one of the biggest video games in the world. And then he also became the executive producer of a TV show on Netflix called Arcane, which is based on that video game. So, and he said his mom used to, call him, constantly and saying, you're sure this is what you want to do? You don't want to be a doctor, right? You're happy. And he'd say, I'm happy, Mom. And she'd say, okay, as long as you're happy, Yeah, no, I mean, I can think of so many, like Jesse Barber, who never really liked school that much. And then at some point he heard about his friend going to the Culinary Institute of America and like just doing like chef stuff. He says, wow, you can do that instead. And he dropped out and he went to this culinary school, and he gave the valedictory speech and graduation, and he was like getting straight A's, and he's been the chef at several restaurants, and now he runs a whole restaurant group. I mean, and he said his parents are always supportive. They're up in, I think, Seattle, and he's down in LA, and they come down and eat in all his restaurants, and it's just so nice.
That reminds me, I watched an interview with Bobby Flay, who said he did horrible in school. And he, he just was really struggling. And his dad kind of got a job for him in a restaurant. Here, you're going to go work here. And he did, and ended up kind of learning things. And then the owner of the restaurant said, hey, there's a culinary school. He said, huh, you just said the word school. No, I'm out. And he said, no, 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 it's not like the other kind. You get to do stuff. And so having somebody kind of push him in the right direction, I think has benefited a lot of us. So
Yeah, that's so fun. Here's another one, Paige Mykoski, who started Aviator Nation. And she went to college and then she had a regular job. And I think it was like her 23rd birthday or something. Both of her grandparents gave her $100 and she told her mom, she said, I'm quitting my job. I'm leaving San Francisco. I'm moving home. I'm taking the $200. I'm buying a sewing machine and I'm going to start sewing. I have these ideas for some clothes. And her mom went, great. That's great. And there you have it, Aviator Nation. She's like one of the youngest self-made billionaires.
wow, that is amazing. That was $200 well spent.
Yeah. I mean, I would say like every single one of these people, like I mentioned my older son, his passion was tennis. My younger son, his passion was writing music. And he ended up, I think it was seventh grade. We'd signed him up for a summer of sports camps and he broke his leg the first week. And we were desperately looking around for something for him to do. And the only thing I found an opening was this thing where you write music on a computer. I'm like, you're going to this. And at the end of the summer, that was it. And he wrote 300 songs before he graduated from high school. He's a musician today. And, again, like it was a big gulp for us. Like, we don't know anything about music. It's not our world. We're like these academic, boring, traditional parents. I have an MBA. My husband has a law degree. We're just very traditional. And it's like, okay, this is what you want to do. And this is where this is what you're really good at. And, it takes a while. And I thought when my children were little, I didn't understand that everyone's brain is different. I thought everyone's brain was like my brain. And I didn't understand that there's completely different kinds of brains. And I think my epiphany with my younger son was he was playing the piano and it was exam week. And I said, stop playing the piano and go study. And he said, I have a new song in my head. I just have to play it on the piano so I can visualize it, so I can write it down when exams are over. And I just went like, oh, because I have never had a new song in my head. And if I had a song in my head, I certainly couldn't play it on the piano. And if I played a song on the piano, I wouldn't be able to visualize it, to write it down. You just have to realize that they're different from you. And you have to support that and you have to embrace that. And you have to acknowledge that and enjoy it too,
And that's huge. Being able to recognize that our brains are different, that we think differently, that we have different passions, and to be able to step back and support a person in what brings them joy. And that's what works. People are successful when they have that strength. It's not obviously not that I taught them this thing. They're awesome because I taught it, because it has nothing to do with anything that I know or even interested in. But the parents still played a very vital role in giving the children the support and confidence that I can do things. What I want matters. My passions matter. And I can do this. That's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Linda. That's so sweet of you to say. I love the way you rephrase it. It's so much more interesting.
That is so cool. How many kids do you have?
I have these two boys,
The two boys, just the two.
the tennis player and the musician.
Is that what started you on this journey of trying to ask of what makes them? It's like, that's what I did. What'd you do? Or,
Yeah, so my older son, the one that dropped out of college,
uh-huh.
and he was working in my husband's new company, and he was interested in becoming an entrepreneur. And he wanted to meet young entrepreneurs and didn't think he was cool enough that they would meet him. So he cold called and invited 18 young entrepreneurs to an all expense paid ski weekend in Utah. This was 2008, and it was the first time millennial entrepreneurs had ever gathered together. And And it was people like Blake Mycoskie from Tom's Shoes and the Chat GPT guy and the College Humor guys and just all these really interesting young entrepreneurs. And they all said to him, you have to do it again, and I want to bring 5 friends. And that became Summit, which became this really big deal organization of young entrepreneurs. And I would go to all these Summit events and I'd, meet all these young people, these young 30, 35-year-old entrepreneurs. And I would say, like, how did you turn out the way you did? I'm just so curious. And they all said the same thing to me. They all said, I had someone who believed in me, who told me I could do anything I put my mind to. Usually it was a parent. Even more usually it was their mom. Not always, but usually. And I was so struck by this. I just kept talking about it. And the kids said, you have to write a book. And I'm like, I can't write a book. And they were, no, you have to write a book. I can't write a book. And they said, you have to write a book. I'm like, okay, I'll write a book. And so they wrote the foreword and they said, everyone needs someone to believe in them. And sometimes it's even your kids.
That's true. In this case, the role was reversed, where it was, you can do this. I believe in you. Isn't that lovely that it can go both ways?
Yeah.
I think we always need that love and support our whole lives. It doesn't end because I'm in the role of the grown-up or the parent. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we cover before we close today?
I would just tell parents, like, don't beat yourself up. Nobody's perfect. And you can only do the best that you can do. And at the end of the day, it'll be okay, as long as they know how much you love them. And if something isn't right, it's okay. Tell them, I screwed up. Let's try it again. But just keep going and let them know how much you love them and how proud of them you are for whatever they love. And I just want to say one more thing. Like, I'll talk to parents of high school kids and I'll say, what are their passions? And they'll say, gee, I don't really know. I've never noticed a passion. And I'm like, then you're not paying attention. Or you have them so overprogrammed that they never have had a chance to explore the thing that gives them joy. Or they've started to explore the thing that gives them joy, and you've said, stop wasting your time on that and go back in and study your trigonometry. Like, who needs trigonometry? I'm sorry. It's important to see what gives your children joy and then say, why don't you spend more time on that and see how it goes? And then tell them you're proud of them for having worked so hard in that and trying so hard to succeed in the thing that they love.
Wow, what incredible advice. That's so perfect. Let's first be compassionate with ourselves. Like, it's okay to not be perfect, with also kind of an admonition to say, you know what, but maybe we can do better. And I guess that's where we all are, right? We're all on our journey.
It is, even today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for visiting me with me, Margot. This is amazing.
Oh, thank you, Linda. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Brené Brown. She said, parenting is a constant dance between setting boundaries and letting go. Today, I invite our listeners who are parents to enjoy this dance and help our children rise to their potential. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.